I will give you a hand up. I will not give you a hand out. That's what's going on in the Western civilization right now in Europe and in Canada and America. We have created this welfare state, and now it's literally a business to these people. You saw what's going on in Minnesota. Look at what Nick Shirley did. He was 22 years old. He exposed $9 billion in fraud. And people don't realize this. You know, the Minnesota governor dropped out of the actual race to run for governor because of this video that came out. I want to see mass arrests of evil people. That's what we want. That's the mandate we have, and that's what I think America First is really about. If you're guilty of abusing children, I think there's you should be killed. That's what I believe. It is point blank. I mean, if you're anything with the kids that are under 10, under 13, whatever. And also, this is one thing that I don't think people understand.
Madison Cawthorn. First of all, that name is dope. Okay?
Thank you.
I think you should just bypass being a congressman and go straight to like dictator, because that's just like the best name you could ever have.
Listen, obviously growing up on Star Wars, all the things, I always thought Darth Cawthorn, Lord Cawthorn, they all go together so well. So obviously, my dad had a boy named Sue Philosophy. And so, I have a girl's name in America. It's about 1995 is when it switched over, but I'm named after the president. And so, but I love my name. It's the best.
It's a great name. You should win strictly based on your name. I don't care what your fucking policies are, just on your name.
So when I was about 15 years old, I was skiing with my older brother, and we saw another group of brothers, and one of them, a boy, was named Madison. And so we skied down, hunted him down. I pushed him over. I was like, there can only be one. So,
Highlander, brother.
And we're friends to this day. Yeah. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't research you that much because I wanted to. Basically the way I like to conduct my talks with people is that we're two guys meeting you for the first time, want to get to know you. I understand that you are running for Congress here in Leeds County, correct?
That is correct. Yes. So in Lee and Collier County, District 19 of Florida, it's currently represented by Byron Donalds.
Yes.
Now he's running for governor, so it's a vacant seat. I was a member. Byron and I both got elected at the same time. I was one of the youngest people ever elected in U.S. history in North Carolina. And so Byron and I came in at the same time in 2020. Our third day on the job was January 6th. So let me tell you. Well, everyone acted like it was such a bombastic time, but because of COVID, our freshman orientation was truncated. So they were showing us kind of the emergency evacuation. And I wish I'll go just touch on this. I wish that they had told us what was going on, because somebody like me or another well-known conservative has easily just rolled out into the front steps of the Capitol with a bullhorn, said, guys, we're fighting this. They are using this as a reason to arrest patriots and to make us be afraid of gathering together. And so that could have stopped, but they were trying to get us to evacuate. So we're going, we don't know what's going on. It sounds like they were making it sound like it was a bomb. They were telling us, you need to put your hoods on. It could be a biological threat, whatever. But then it's just flights of stairs as the emergency exit. And so I had Capitol Police officers, sir, we'll carry you. And I was like, no, you won't. And so then me and a few other congressmen, we went around, and I will tell you, this is one of the coolest things I've ever done is, we believe in the Second Amendment. We were armed.
Yep.
And so, we were clearing corners in the marble floors with the great pillars of the United States Capitol. It's one of the coolest things we've ever done.
Nice.
And then, we open a door where the crowd is on the other side, and it's just normal Americans. They're like, oh my gosh, hey, people wanting to take pictures with us. We're sitting there with pistols. So we just quickly put them up, and they're like, great to meet you, y'all. We're here for you. We thank you for fighting for us. Now, I did see a group of about 200 people that were in all black. They meant to be there. I completely think they were planted by the other side.
100%.
And I think about probably 40 of them were FBI agents themselves. But the overwhelming majority, I always call January 6th the Great Trespassing. So people broke the law of trespassing, then were in prison for 12 years in solitary confinement. It's ridiculous.
100%.
Yeah.
So let's discuss January 6th then, because I think that's something that's been painted in such a way that, the massive insurrection and the fact that we put Republicans back decades by doing that. What I found the most diabolical thing the media did is they clipped Trump's speech to edit out the fact that he said protest peacefully, right? And that just goes to speak on how malicious and how myopic the media is.
And, I tell people often, you don't hate the media enough. And anybody who's been through it, you've heard articles written about you, they all know very quickly, this is literally intended for them to make money. They are trying to make money off of clicks and what is ever going to get the most attention. And so rarely do they actually care about what the facts are. And oftentimes they are utilized by the radical left to push a narrative or to take down our greatest champions. I will tell you, I did an interview with Tucker Carlson.
Amazing.
But I think it was in 2021. Maybe perhaps it was 2022. And anyways, in the interview, I started, pontificating on the fact, I thought it was so interesting why they continue to use the word insurrection after this thing. And, I remember the January 6th committee when they were asking questions, my response to it was, I am the leader of the Second Amendment movement in the United States of America. If I wanted to overthrow the government, do you think my people would have shown up with flagpoles? Like, what do you think is going on here? And so it was just a ridiculous statement, but I realized the reason they continually use the word insurrection is because they tried to use, it's in the Constitution, they tried to use a Civil War era rule to kick me off the ballot, saying those who have participated in insurrection cannot, hold public office. It was basically targeted at renegade officers from the other side. And so what really frustrated me is that they were trying to use me as a precedent. If they took me down, then they could have used it for everybody
100%.
else involved. And so, that cost us over $700,000 to defeat that inside of in court. And it's just ridiculous because that's another target they use. They use the media to push a narrative. And then once they have that narrative, they will then use the, militant judicial system to then go after people. Now, they know they're not going to get you on a crime. I'm sure that, I always tell people, if you haven't been investigated by the federal government, I think you're a Fed. I tell the people that all the time. And so, like, if you weren't subpoenaed, I don't trust you. And, but the main thing that I want to drive home is they know they're not going to get you on a crime. They are trying to drain you of resources,
100.
Drain you of time, but then they also want you to break a rule. Because remember, if you lie to a federal officer, it's in instant jail time, just very, very quickly. And so let's say you misremembered something.
Okay, nice.
Then all of a sudden you're taken into jail and so everyone will then say, during a case regarding, overthrow or conspiracy to overthrow the government, Madison Cawthorn was sentenced to 5 years. When it had nothing to do with that, it said, oh, well, I remember it as, 1003 versus 1019. And that's their tactic.
Yeah. And to me, I'm a big believer in truth. And I don't think anything should be more important than that. Not the position of power, not the representation of a narrative. It should be truth. And that's why I have such a disdain for the media, because the truth is not what they're interested in. They're interested in a narrative. They're interested in clickbait. And I don't think the American public or Canadian public, North American public, has ever had lack or less trust in the government and the media.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that it is getting to a point where it's so bad. Obviously, they tried to use soft power to control us for so long, where they were essentially, calling people, they would, everyone's here has probably been called a Nazi, an anti-Semite, a racist, a homophobe, an Islamophobe, whatever it is. They try to use that as soft power to cancel you. And now that that's not working, they started using social media companies to start silencing people. There are so many amazing platforms who produce really high quality videos, but their reach is so limited. It's because they're being throttled.
Right.
And, the actual companies, they don't want to look like they're silencing conservatives. But if they're not allowing your voice to get out there, it's ridiculous.
That's exactly what they're doing.
And so I find, because, I'm pretty popular on Instagram. I can post, I think my most liked post, I had a dip can during the State of the Union. My brake broke on my wheelchair. And so I'm sitting there with all of Biden's cabinet because it's my position where I was. And so I was kept continuing rolling forward because it's stadium seating. And so in that, I just kind of put it here. I took a video of that and then panned the room. My most liked video. I mean, it's almost got 1 million likes. It was insane. But then I'll post a video that's really well produced that would normally do great, but it has a real message saying, hey, America should not be beholden to a foreign power. This is some evidence I found on these things. This is evidence I found on that. We shouldn't be sending money overseas for no reason. The currency of other countries to achieve their goals shouldn't be the blood of American sons and daughters. And then that gets 800 likes. And whereas, but if anybody sees it, oh, that's awesome. And so this is all their mission because they want to suppress the truth.
That is also disheartening. And we just, prior to you, I had Josh Cedar in here and
great guy.
We made, dude, that was a fucking awesome interview. And our point is that we grasp so tightly onto negative information or to rage bait, but you post something that is supposed to be motivational or uplifting and nobody gives a shit, right? Or people don't care. And that to me just is so disheartening because we should be trying to rise up. We should be trying to motivate others. And yet you just want to hear me shit talk about other people. It's It speaks to society's mindset.
No, you're absolutely right. And then the one thing that I will tell you is you'll see some motivational content that's performing really well, but it's saying, hey, you should love yourself and you should be proud of who you are and blah, blah, blah. No, you should have disdain for who you are when you're born. And I say this all the time. Women normally, they start out on the top of the mountain, but I'm talking here about men. Normally, men, when we come of age, we're starting out at the bottom of the mountain. Whether it's our value on the sexual marketplace, we're at our lowest. Whether it's our value being respected by business leaders, whether it's our ability to be at the table where decisions are made, we start out at the bottom.
Yes.
And if you just say, well, I love who I am and I like this and I don't need to change anything about myself because people should just accept me. No. Like, we are all born selfish, lazy, and, arrogant. And it takes work for us to realize, hey, I need to destroy those things about myself so that I can become a man that people respect and someone who can actually affect change.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah. I'm still arrogant, so I need to work on that.
Listen, that might be one of my that's probably my second sin I fall into the easiest. So I got you.
But in saying that, and I concur, and I state the same values, I think that we should always be responsible for making ourselves better.
Yep.
Right? No matter where you sit in your life, in any category, financial, spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, be fucking better.
Yes, exactly.
Always strive to be more than you are. And then you'll have people that are content with being lazy. You'll have people that are just okay, like, I'm okay, I'm good enough as I am. No, motherfucker, you are not.
No.
Right? You could be more. And I find that people that are just so quick to be okay, to be average, I think you're a fucking loser.
And it comes down to, obviously, the media you consume. That's one thing, but it really comes down to who you surround yourself with.
100%.
You show me your 5 closest friends and you are the average of those people. If you don't have people that are making you feel like you need to be better, you need to push yourself, you need to be great. My brother and I, we're doing pretty well for 2 guys born in 1995. We have a pretty great life. But then we hang out with other people who are really killing it. We realize, no, there are levels to this game.
Yes.
We need to step up and play harder.
Right.
We had these conversations with, you need people, your corner toters, the guys, if you were paralyzed in the time of Jesus, guys who would pick up a mat, carry you on top of a roof, destroy a roof, and lower you down so that you could get healed. Those are the kind of men that you need in your life, and guys who are going to say, hey, listen, man, we're doing all right. We're like in 3rd gear right now. For this situation, we need to kick it to 4th gear. We can
100%.
be better. And you have to have friends that, one, you have given you've deputized them to be able to speak truth into your life.
Yes.
So, me and my friend group, if you've got a cross on you tattooed or you've got one of these compass necklaces, then, if you're in my friend group, I've given you the right that you can come in and give me unsolicited advice. And let me tell you, that's not the most fun thing in the entire world. Because sometimes you hear some stuff you don't want to hear.
Absolutely, though. Yeah. But you need those kind of real people around you.
Yep.
And again, it goes back to all levels of life, in business, in personal. I know some of my competitors are just surrounded by yes men. Oh, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. No, motherfucker, that was a stupid idea, and you're going to pay for that. But your ego is such that all you want to do is be applauded and congratulated, and at the end of the day, you end up paying the price.
You really do.
Strive, dude. You need those solid guys beside you to say, listen, that's stupid. Buddy, you're fucking up. Buddy, you're getting lazy. Buddy, you're getting fat. Right? You need that shit. And it's hard because most people don't want to see the real truth about themselves.
That's exactly right. And then also, people want to feel bad for themselves. I mean, I've got friends that, just a few months ago, they're like, hey, you look like a fat piece of shit. Like, what are you doing? And then obviously, people hear that, like, dude, he's in a wheelchair. What are you doing? And then I can't feel bad for myself. Obviously, do I wish I wasn't in a wheelchair? Yeah, of course. But you know what? This is the card, the hand that I was dealt.
Right.
And we're going to fight with it the best we absolutely can.
Absolutely.
And so, I just I hate when I hear people who are just so down on themselves and they feel like, well, because of the situation.
Fuck your situation.
There's nothing I can do about it. It's like, listen, you might not be able to win because you got struck by lightning during that fist fight. Who knows?
Right.
But you're still going to try your hardest.
Right.
And let me tell you, I feel like you're rewarded for that. And, I'm a strong believer in Christ, but whatever you believe in, I really, Christianity is the only way, but I really believe that you are rewarded for trying your absolute hardest.
At the very least, you are going to be better than what you were.
Yep.
Right? So.
And burn the ships. No second option.
No, absolutely.
I've got it tattooed right here. It's the most important thing to remember. Yeah, Cortez burning the ships. He was taking down the Aztec Empire. And this is another thing. It's what the media does. If the media was around when the conquistadors came into, Central America, they would be like, oh, well, here comes the far right. These are the guys, neo-Nazis. No, they showed up and said, hey, the child sacrifices are going to stop. If you don't stop them, we're going to kill you. And, but if then they want to get, demonized all over the world saying, well, this was so wrong. And it's absolutely incorrect. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud that, the Western civilization has gone around the world and civilized the planet. We live in an era of Pax Americana, just like we had Pax Romana, where America has kept the peace around the world generally for most things. But now we see what's going on in North America. I'm talking about Canada and in America. We have so many pencil neck losers.
Yep.
And if there was something like a near peer power to us, I would be afraid if there had to be a draft and we had to fight like we were in World War II. Now, thank God there's no near peer power to the United States. That's been proven over the last few months under President Trump.
Yes.
But if we ever had to get in a fight man to man without technology, I would be concerned about, the state that North America's in.
100%. I have a disdain for liberal mindset. I think, and I'm quite vocal about it, and I don't care who that fucking offends. I think you're weak. I think you're easily duped. I think you're easily manipulated. And I don't think we as men and women, but I say men as mankind, we should allow ourselves to be put in that position.
You're exactly right. Yeah, and this is one thing that really frustrates me is, it's such a victimhood mentality.
Oh, buddy, I hate that.
It's the worst. And this is where I think people get mad at conservatives, say, oh, well, you don't want to help people. No. I will give you a hand up. I will not give you a hand out. The kindest people I know in the world are hardcore conservatives who won't put up with, BS excuses. But if you're going through a hard time, genuinely something's bad, they will give you a hand up, say, hey, I'm going to help you get back on your feet.
Yes.
But if you use that to enable yourself to continue to be weak, to continue to be lazy, then, at that point, we got to cut it off. And that's what's going on in the Western civilization right now in Europe and in Canada and America. Oh. We have created this welfare state, and now it's literally a business to these people. You saw what's going on in Minnesota. You said there's so much exposure going on of these ridiculous people who are just stealing from the United States taxpayer. And listen, I'm almost to the point where I think that only people who are net positives for the United States tax system should be allowed to vote. Like if you're a moocher and you're taking from the government,
I agree.
And maybe judge that over 10 years. Like if you have anybody here who's owned a business, we've all had a down year.
Absolutely.
We know how that goes.
Right.
But anyway, so I think we're on the same page. I hate weak people. I hate people that, I have a massive disdain for fat people. Now, if you have a thyroid issue, I completely understand that. I'll
fuck
let
off,
you have,
okay?
But hang on. It's like 0.10001% of people actually have a thyroid issue.
Right.
Most people, you just go to a doctor and they want to say what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dude. And they're like, well, I feel really healthy. No, I'm sorry. Go and be better. Like this is a temple to God, and you only get one car, and your body is that vehicle. Take care of it.
Again, we're speaking the same language, brother. I feel the same way. And we just have become so complacent in being weak because we have everybody saying, look how cute that dog is. We have everybody saying that it's okay, you're good enough. No, you are not, okay? And we owe it to God, the universe, however you want to place that higher power, we owe it, even just simply to ourselves, to be more than we are. And that is so offensive to people. I get so much flack online about, because I did a post about being fat, people being fat. And I'm like, don't give me that bullshit about thyroid. Don't give me that bullshit about whatever excuse. Even if, let's just say you do have a thyroid problem, which is a small percentage of people, work harder, man. Sorry about your fucking luck. You got dealt some shitty cards. Work harder. Because even if you work harder, maybe you're never going to be a size 1, 0, 2, whatever it is. I don't know what a good size for chicks is. But you'll certainly be better than what you were. Change your diet. Even just doing that alone. Maybe you can't exercise. Change your diet.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, listen, I have to take a medication that makes it very hard to lose fat. It's just a side effect of it.
You're in good shape.
I'm in a wheelchair. I can't run. I can't, there's so many things that I can't do. But, none of my friends will give me a pass on that. Now, I know I'm not sitting here at like 13% body fat and feeling really strong. I've got some work to do, but it's so hard for me to have empathy for these people who are just like legitimately have.
Dude, you got big fucking arms. You look good.
Yeah, exactly. And I know quadriplegics who they can't go out. They cannot exercise. There's nothing they can do. I'm blessed. I can, I can lift, I can fight, I can do whatever I want to do. And you get a small workout. But I know guys who are quadriplegic and they're so militant about it. They're like, well, I just have to limit what I eat because I literally can't go get my heart rate up. And,
right.
it's just, Anyways, I think we're talking the same language here, that we don't like excuses. Jocko Willink wrote a great book on extreme ownership.
Yep.
And, it's a great book because, it recognizes there's some things that you can't control.
No, there isn't.
Every variable that you can control, which is mainly your mindset and how you react to the things that happen to you.
Yes.
That you should take extreme ownership of in every situation.
Right.
Every realm.
I concur. You can't control what happens to you, but you certainly can control your reaction to that.
Absolutely.
And how you make your moves on what you do based on that situation.
Right.
Again, it's a loser mentality just to say, oh, fuck, poor me. Right. So when you spoke about the Aztecs and the conquistadors, let's talk about let's focus basically on America. There's been this issue with all the illegals and the fact that nobody is illegal on stolen land.
Conquered. My ancestors didn't steal it. We conquered it.
Right. And we bought. You guys bought. I'll be an American by the end of the year. But
there we go. Congratulations. We're excited to have you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, legal immigration.
That's right.
People who are going to assimilate and make this country a better place and create jobs and create value. We want you in our country.
Yes.
That's what we want. But listen, I am so aggressive on saying that, hey, I don't think that we should just deport the illegals. I think we need to have an immigration moratorium. Listen, I want to import people like you. I want to import people like Elon Musk. Don't want you to give your value, your skills, and your effort to another nation to make them better. I want to find hard workers, people who will say, hey, you want to give me a home? Cool, I will give you my loyalty. You swear fealty to my country. You say that I'm going to make this country a better place. I'll abide by your laws. We'll welcome you with open arms. That makes you an American. Let's go.
Yes.
But it's the people who come here who want to steal from us, and then they say, oh, well, we're a nation of immigrants. There's a massive difference
100.
between going to somewhere that is not settled versus going to somewhere that you can take. You take any European nation. Look at what they did to Australia. 200 years, they created an amazing nation. It's really incredible. And this is one thing that I also say. It's like, I'm not just talking about white pilgrims, Americans. Like, I believe there's some benefit to, heritage Americans, whether the people their ancestors were enslaved here, whatever it is, they were part of building this country and they have a great amount of pride here. And we only want to welcome people that would have that same amount of pride for this nation and what it stands for.
As you should.
Yeah.
If you take a look at America as a business, are you going to bring in and employ people that will steal from the company, that are lazy? No, you don't. And that's why, say what you want about Trump. He runs this country like a business.
He does. Yep.
Right? As it should. And I vehemently agree with the fact that don't bring in people that will drain your system. Canada is getting fucked right now because all we are doing is bringing in people that are bogging down the medical system. Crime rates are up. There's so many issues with Canada right now. High. Dude, I pay 54% tax.
Dude, you should be stacking bodies. They are stealing from you. I'm serious. This is you read the preamble to our Constitution. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. And it continues and it goes on for our prosperity and for our posterity, the future generations that come after us. Listen, if someone steals from you, you should turn the other cheek, right? In a lot of situations, there are some things that you can forgive. Yeah. I cannot forgive you for stealing from my children, taking food off of their plate and the prosperity that they can have. And if you want to tax me and tax our country, make us poor, make us broke, inflate our currency and destroy it, you are ruining this country for my nieces, for my future children, for the next generation. And for that, listen, our ancestors were stacking tyrants' bodies for a 3% tax on tea. Listen, we need to start getting aggressive. The tree of liberty is thirsty. And if this country does not want to come together, if we want to continue to rob the American people, it's time for the people to stand up and say, hey, the founders gave us tools to be able to say, no, you're going to start doing what we want. Like the Federal Reserve needs to be wiped out. All of these central banks are insane.
Talk to me about that.
Oh, you want to get crazy here. So there are people in this, and I'm not talking about, the commercial banks, Wells Fargo, Truist, all of these ones you can go to for your debit card, all of these things. I'm talking about the institutionalized banks, the big investment banks or central banks all across the world, particularly the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve uses quantitative easing to try and, artificially inflate our currency. They do just directly inflate our currency. And people don't realize that is a tax on Americans. Your dollar becomes worth less, yet the government gets all of the value out of it. And so I think that, every single amount of currency needs to be backed by something. I do not believe in this fiat currency anymore. I seriously hate it. We are the global reserve currency for now. We need to continue to reestablish that. There were barrels of oil that were bought, I believe, about 4 years ago in a Chinese yuan. Now, the thing about being the global reserve currency is if you want to buy oil, you want energy for your people, you have to trade your currency in for US dollars, and then you're allowed to buy it. That's the rule planet-wide, and that's how it has to be.
Okay.
Because it gives us the power. When we start putting sanctions on people, it makes them be like, gosh, I can't buy oil. I can't sell oil. So it's a really big deal. But if we continue to inflate our currency, it's the reason why gold is over $5,000 an ounce today. It's because our currency has become so inflated. People realize that it's just fiat. And sure, it's backed by the United States military, which is great. And I love that. But, I want to go back to the gold standard. It's a reason that I believe so heavily in crypto. I think it's such a great tool. And it's, I have a crypto company. We're very invested in all of this.
Nice.
Things that we really care about. But I think that America needs to get back onto the gold currency. And I mean, you look at when they decided to create the Federal Reserve, by hook or by crook, whatever you want to believe, I personally believe that it was intentional. All of the people that would have fought against the Federal Reserve died on the Titanic.
Yeah, there's that theory.
And whether it was intentional or not intentional, we can say that we now have a Federal Reserve that has been destroying our currency for so long. Interest rates are absolutely ridiculous. And there's almost no ability for people in my generation, I'm born in 1995, to be able to go out and create a business, to buy a home, to be able to go and make something of themselves, unless they're like a real killer. And they're really doing a great job. And there's so much opportunity that there should be inside of this country, but it's been robbed from us by these central bankers who want to devalue our currency, want to destroy our society, want to destroy our moral compass, and just make our country such a weak place so that we can just be a welfare state that sends money out to other people. Did you not realize that after we shut off USAID, Doge went in, we stopped sending all this money around, Democrats can't fundraise now. They always out fundraise Republicans, especially when we have the presidency. This is normally when they should be fundraising the most. They can't fundraise right now. Do you want to know why? It's because all of that money that was going to USAID, they were then saying, oh, well, now we're going to wash this and send it back into the United States, and all of a sudden it's going to get donated back to you. So you guys send us $20 million. We'll make sure you get $2 million in your campaign coffers.
Yep. But you know what it's difficult for me to sympathize, because you're painting a picture of how sort of corrupt and manipulated and sort of sad the America is, but Canada is far worse, dude. So when you're telling me, we have these issues with Canada, I'm like, oh, fuck, that's way better than what I got, right? Hence the reason why I'm moving and becoming an American, because it's just a better place to thrive. You can create businesses here. You're not being hampered by the government. You're not being restricted. As far as I can tell, and I've never seen any evidence to the contrary of that.
Yeah. No, well, I will say,
just by the 54% tax.
Yes, so the 54% tax, I will say there are a lot of hampers in the United States that did not used to exist. I mean, you look at my city here in Cape Coral, we have about 6% of the land is actually available for commercial real estate. I build commercial real estate. If you want to be able to build a business, you have to have a place that you can use.
Why is it only 6%?
It's because so many of the politicians are paid off by developers. And they wanted to make this area, a place for Airbnbs. They want to make this place for second homes. Whereas in my mind, homes are not for investments. Homes are for families.
100.
And so, but the problem is that it's a great place to vacation, because, when you go on vacation, everything's taken care of for you,
Yeah.
You're not there to actually live a life, but it's difficult for people to, to raise children there and get all of those things going. Because if you want to go and do anything with young kids, you have to go over the bridge. You have to do all these other things. Whereas I think that we should focus in Florida, particularly, in making our communities just absolute jewels, where it's like, why would I ever leave? Like, we should all love our city so much. This is so, I know when I pay my taxes to these people, I never have to lock my cars. The police, they take care of criminals. We have rough men out there who will hurt other rough men who want to do bad. I know we have the best roads. We don't have to deal with traffic. We have the greatest bus routes. Everything is going well. We have a great education system. I think our education system here is a complete joke. I was homeschooled. I think you should homeschool your kids. But until we get the Federal Department of Education completely destroyed. And so where I'm at right now is I want to make America, and I know that you're coming here because it is so much better than a tyrannical place like Canada.
Yep.
And I want more people like you to come down here. But in the United States, I want to make it even easier for people to start businesses and to be able to have prosperity.
As it should. And that's why more and more people are businesses, as I said, in Canada. We are leaving Canada. There is no benefit with the Canadian government to own a business in Canada. You make it extremely difficult. I have over 100 employees, okay? How is that fair for them to be taxed to the degree that they are? We're just going to leave. There's no reason for us to stay here. Fuck you. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to create a better life for my family, myself, my business. I already have a warehouse in Miami.
There we go.
I'll be moving here August 1st. And then within a year, see you, buddy. By the end of the year, I'll be an American citizen. And I'm staying here. I love Florida, dude. Like,
well, listen, when you go to take your oath, I would like to be there.
Oh, buddy, I'd be honored.
Have a great time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I love Florida. I like the people here. Their people have integrity. They have honor. The very fact that your gun laws are so much better than Canada's. The gun laws in Canada's are actually just fucking diabolical.
It's insanity. And listen, this is one thing that tyrannical governments love to have. Is one, they want to have a monopoly on currency.
Yep.
That's what you see in every single country, because then you have to always go to the government. And the two, this is where people become very tyrannical, they want to have a monopoly on violence.
Yes.
Let me tell you, you can never allow the government to have a monopoly on violence. Now, obviously, Joe Biden said something one time when we were talking about, if you continue to be tyrannical, like the people will rise up. It's what the Constitution was written for. And I remember he said, you would need F-16 and nuclear weapons. I'm like, so you're saying that you want to use the military on United States citizens? That's insane.
Yeah,
like
he was such a Muppet.
Such a Muppet. And, again, I wish that I could have seen a debate when Joe Biden was, kind of at his prime, 40 years ago. Because, I've seen some of his Senate speeches, and he was doing a pretty good job. But he was just a vessel to be put up so that they could then defeat Donald Trump. And, he had no idea where he was. And it's insanity. But going back to monopoly on violence, I'll tell you, I met him when he was sworn in and his inauguration. And I went up and, I spoke at the RNC vehemently against him. Like, I was a very well-known figure in American politics. He had no idea which party anybody was a part of. He was like, it's great to meet you. And he was like, talking about, well, do you want to get a picture together and all this stuff? As staffers came in, right? No, sir, do not. I was like, you don't even know who I am, dude. Like, I'm your biggest competition in Congress, and you can't even remember my name.
He doesn't even know who his wife is.
Oh, it's a shame on her for allowing him to be abused.
100%.
Yeah, and she's a witch.
Yeah. But she's a doctor.
Oh, Dr. Jill. Listen, anybody who it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy of authority saying, well, I have this degree, so you should believe this, and that.
Let's talk about the 2020 election. Stolen?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I was debating on Wisconsin and a couple of other states. I spoke at the Eclipse before the president did. Then I rolled all the way back to the Capitol, which is, right down Pennsylvania, but it's a couple miles. So it was a good run. And the people were great. It was just like the greatest rally you've ever seen. And it was literally because of the curvature of the hill we were on, I couldn't see the end of the crowd. I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of people. And so anyway, we're there debating on it. But listen, we can get into kind of the more conspiratorial stuff, which has now been proven true. That, they were ballot stuffing. They were doing all kinds of bad things. That's all been proven true. But back in 2020, it was ridiculous because it was such an easy thing to debate legally. In the Constitution, it states that only state houses, the state house and state senate of each state, can actually affect election laws. But in most states, you had their Secretary of State, like the Secretary of State in Wisconsin, who changed voting laws unanimously on her own without consulting or getting a law change from the actual legislative body. That's unconstitutional. Therefore, your ballots don't count. And I mean, it was super simple. So we came out with a video laying that out. It was probably my most viewed video, and it was only up for 26 hours. And then after we posted that video, I was the first congressman to announce that I was going to be contesting the election. I remember I got a call from so many people in Washington, D.C. It was one guy that I used to look up to so much, and I had just been elected. And I was speaking at this big rally, and he called, and I just remember I stopped because we were rolling to the venue. And I was like, oh, hey, it's great to talk to you, man. I've looked up to you for so long. I had your book in the background, all my videos, all this stuff. Nice. You're awesome. And then he was like, you cannot do this. If you do this, he was so arrogant about it. He's like, we're not on the same level. We're not on the same effing level. I was like, well, last I checked, I'm a member of Congress and so are you. I was like, and I'm representing my constituents, not you. Then I got a call from all of leadership saying, we cannot contest the election. We're not going to be doing this. And it was just because they're cowardly and they don't want to, they don't want to take a fight.
Sure.
So, anyway, so then we released this video, and by the time they took it down, Twitter and Instagram took it down. They nuked it. They nuked it. Like they were like, you can never post this again. We'll ban your account, all this stuff. But by after that, so many people called their members of Congress that we had over 100 people come out saying we are going to contest the election. And so that's the one thing that I think people need to realize. Someone like me, I was one of the youngest people ever elected to the United States Congress at 24 years old. I made a social media video. Like, you can get your voice out so easily now if you're convincing, or, you can articulate all of these things.
And authentic.
And it changed the course of history. It created one of the most memorable dates in all of United States history because people were saying, hey, I'm going to stand up and fight against this. And that's something I want to encourage the audience for, is never think that your voice doesn't matter. So many people I know would say, oh, well, what can I do against this billion-dollar corporation? What can I do against all of these tyrants? What can I do against this? Look at what Nick Shirley did. He was 22 years old. He exposed $9 billion in fraud.
Minnesota.
And people don't realize this. The Minnesota governor dropped out of the actual race to run for governor because of this video that came out. People don't realize that, there's probably about 9 to 12 billionaires or heads of organizations that are, up there in the top 10 most powerful people in the world. You have, the leaders of all the big nuclear powers, especially Russia, Germany, the United States, China, a few other countries. The United States obviously is the preeminent power. Those are some of the most powerful people in the world. But then after that, these smaller countries really don't matter that much. And it really goes down to states. Individual states in the United States have larger GDPs than most countries. And so these 50 governors are close to, in the top 50 most powerful people in the world. And so for a 22-year-old to release a social media video and take one of those people down, someone who was almost the vice president of the United States.
He was such a douchebag. Tim Walz is such a douchebag.
He's not a douchebag. He's a retard. That guy is terrible. And listen, anybody who would be offended by that word, I don't think those aren't the people that I'm using it against.
If you're offended by that word, yell at me.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just, I will say that, Tim Walz is a terrible person. I'm so glad he's
so
gone.
fucking weak, dude.
Anybody who just wants to say, oh, well, there was this fraud scheme going on, but we had no idea what was going on.
Bullshit.
It was $9 billion. One, if you've misplaced $9 billion and nobody noticed, stop taxing us so much. And two, if you knew about it, you should be in handcuffs.
100.
Listen, where I'm at right now is I want to see powerful people who have abused, defrauded, and just done crimes against humanity, against American citizens. I want to see them in handcuffs.
Yes.
That's what we want to see.
I agree.
I want to see mass arrests of evil people. That's what we want. That's the mandate we have, and that's what I think America First is really about.
I agree. So let's use that analogy to go to the Epstein files, though.
Oh, yeah.
So I personally, my own personal belief is that even though Trump is on the files, he's been listed many, many times, I do not believe that there's any evidence that he did anything guilty. But I am of the mindset that if he is guilty, anyone who's guilty should be punished.
If you're guilty of abusing children,
yes.
I think there's you should be killed. That's what I believe.
Yep.
It is point blank. I mean, if you're anything with the kids that are under 10, under 13, whatever, you should be killed right away. Yep. I mean, even minors up to 18, that's completely wrong. But I'm telling you specifically, these people who are abusing children, babies and toddlers, you should be killed. I don't care who you are. And now,
dude, I dig you, man. That's a very harsh attitude to take, and I fucking love it.
Well, listen, it's where most people believe it, and people are like, well, how can you say that as a Christian? They're talking about altars to Baal. What does Elijah say we should do to the prophets of Baal? Leave not one of them alive. What does Jesus himself say we should do to people who harm children? He says, hey, someone took a loan from me, they didn't repay it, turn the other cheek. Hey, this person wronged you and hit you one time, turn the other cheek, forgive them, do this.
Yeah.
And then he gets asked, well, what should we do against people who, hurt the little ones? He said, those who hurt the little ones should have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the water. And that's just saying he wants you to be crushed by the weight of the water there and suffocated.
Yeah, he was gangster.
So that he can then destroy you and torment you in hell for the rest of your existence, for eternity. And that's what should happen. That is the biblical mandate we have, to stand up and be willing to kill people who harm children. Now, talking about that, I completely will say I believe that the Epstein files completely vindicated Trump. I think that he was, I won't go into their reasons, but at the end of the day, whether we wanted it to be released earlier, wanted it to be released differently, I think that Donald Trump was the person, the administration, that happened was under multiple administrations who actually released the Epstein files, and I think he should get a lot of credit for that. Now, one thing that I will say, there is a portion of the Epstein files that is yet to be released.
Really?
I believe it's 1999 to 2002.
Oh, that's right. I have heard that.
Ask yourself what was going on around 2000. That was a really big deal in New York.
Don't know. Go.
The Twin Towers fell.
That's
and
right.
I'm willing to believe that because obviously he was an intelligence asset, I think, for more than one country. I'm willing to believe that these intelligence agencies were involved in 9/11. I think it was an inside job. Towers don't fall straight down.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a complete, it's just terrible. And then we use that to go start a war against people who had nothing to deal with it. Millions of Iraqis were killed, innocent people. Now, obviously, people that were shooting at our young men, obviously, they had to defend themselves. I do not blame a single soldier
neither do I.
who fought in the Jihad. But I will tell you, when you had Saudi Arabian men flying planes, you then find their passports laying on the ground completely unscathed.
A little too convenient.
Although those planes melted steel beams, which is insanity.
Impossible.
Impossible. Yeah. And so, but then we used as a pretext to go to war.
Yes.
And now listen, if you want to go to war for empire, saying, hey, we're going to go to war here because we can help the prosperity of the United States of America. We're going to take their oil fields. All precious minerals are America's. All fresh water supply in the United States is under American control. All oil and energy production is under American control. Any country can go out and get the raw materials, but it all belongs to the United States. We'll pay you for that. But we are the ones who manufactured all of these things. If you want to go to war for empire, okay, now I can understand that. But if you want to go to war to nation build, saying, oh, well, we're going to give democracy to these people. No, there is not a single Muslim country that runs well under a democracy. You need a benevolent dictatorship based on the Quran. I've read the Quran 2 times. And I've been to multiple Muslim countries that are extremely well ran, extremely safe. They have great people there, and they're under benevolent dictatorships, whether they're kings, lords, sheiks, whatever you want to call them. And so saying that you want to go there with the Arab Spring under Hillary Clinton, you are just wasting the lives of America's sons and daughters as the currency that foreign nations want to use to advance their own agenda. America doesn't work for any other foreign nation. We are here for Americans and Americans only. That is point blank, stop right there. Now, again, if America wants to go out and do some targeted strikes to help people, obviously they were killing Christians in Africa, and then on Christmas Day, Donald Trump dropped a bunch of bombs on them. I'm all about that. That's something where American lives aren't really put in danger, but we're helping, the world be a better place, and we're protecting Christianity around the world.
Agreed.
I'm fine with that. And so, what happened during that time is one of the things that infuriates me the most. And knowing all the people that Epstein was in contact with, I think there's a lot of information in there.
I do. Yeah. And I do think people are being protected.
Exactly.
And I mean, again, when I take a look at a country, I take a look how I would run it as a business. If your business is going to suffer because of some kind of leak of information, you are going to protect that. And it's unfortunate. And I don't know if we ever are going to know the full truth of the Epstein files, but I will go on to say that whoever is guilty should be punished. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
And I will tell you, this is one thing. And, I know Attorney General Bondi, great person. I've never had a problem with her. I've met her a couple times. She's lovely.
Nice.
I want someone as the Attorney General right now who is going to ruthlessly hunt down people who harm children, people who defrauded the United States, and people who are continually working to weaken our country as in society. All of these things. When we're saying, well, we arrested some of these people who were doing scams in Minnesota. No, go get me the governor who knew what was going on. Put him in handcuffs. All the name of these massive business owners that we know were abusing children on Epstein Island, eating infants, doing altar worships to Baal and satanic rituals, arrested and taken care of.
So why is it not happening?
That's the $1 million question, brother.
Right.
It really is. And, obviously this is one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that, when you are the president, you have the executive branch, obviously you have essentially full control over the military for about 90 days. So the president can go in somewhere with full military execution in 90 days before he has to get approval from the Congress. And so I think that's totally fine. It's technically 60 days, but then you have a caveat of 30 days to get out. But everyone's going to use that as 90 days. That's my whole point on that.
Yep.
And so, but aside from that, the president has to count on a massive workforce of thousands of political appointees. But unfortunately, those political appointees are in charge of bureaucrats. Permanent Washington is what we call them. They're almost impossible to fire and they're almost impossible to get rid of. And so we can have all the intentions. Hey, we want to go get this done. Yeah, well, we're working on it. We're sending it through here and we got to get this AG to do this in this state. We got to get this done. And so I think people are slow walking it now. I wish perhaps it's not Pam Boende's fault. Maybe it's Permanent Washington there. But I will say I want to get new leadership into the Attorney General's office who is going to bring a hammer down on people who are in the way of protecting people who harm children.
I can't speak to that. I agree 100% with that. And I don't think there's any, I don't see how someone can logically debate that.
Yeah.
But it is unfortunate that things are being slowed down for whatever reason. What do you think about what's happening in Iran right now?
You know what? It's so easy for people in Washington or politicians to be armchair generals.
Of course.
We are not privy to a lot of the information that was given. I do know almost every member of the Gang of Eight, and the overwhelming majority of them say that the Iran was a real and clear and present danger to
100.
American security. I think I was a big supporter of us taking out their nuclear arsenal and their ability to do that. Now, Marco Rubio, he's been saying this since 2015. I remember him giving the speech on the Senate floor because he was running for president in 2016. I was looking at all these people. He gave a speech there saying that, Iran is going to build up so many short-range and long-range ballistic missiles that don't require uranium, just missiles, that they could cause so much damage in human capital and, revenue capital to our allies and to the United States itself, that the cost would be too great for us to go in and stop them from getting uranium enrichment. And so that is essentially the barrier that we were up against and that we had to go take down. Now, I know that we had Joe Kent come out and say that there was no clear and present danger. Joe Kent's a friend. I think he's a great patriot.
Didn't he just step down?
He just resigned, and in his resignation letter, he said that he thought we were being used by foreign powers. I
saw that.
And that's something, if that is the case, I don't like that at all. I will say I know President Trump quite well. That's not something he would allow, and so if we was to come to find out that we were, being tools of some foreign power, that would be disappointing. But I will say I trust Marco Rubio. I definitely trust Pete Hegseth. I definitely trust the president. And if they tell me that there was, this is the person I selected as my leader here with the president for the next 4 years, I selected him as my leader to say, hey, if there is danger to the United States of America, I trust you to act. Yep. He says there is danger to the United States of America, I trust him to act. Now, if we're going to be there for 4 years building schools, I'll be pretty pissed off. But if we're just going to be there, for a few months to go, destroy our enemies, totally okay with that. And also, this is one thing that I don't think people understand. Now, obviously, there's foreign interests who have a vested interest in us destroying Iran, but the United States has a vested interest in stopping China. And you're probably sitting here, what does that have to do with each other?
Oh, I understand 100% why they fucking did this. But go on, explain.
Yeah, and so just for your audience sake, and I know you have a pretty shrewd audience. I listen to your podcast. It's pretty great.
Thank you.
But, taking down Venezuela, they supplied crude oil and petrochemicals to the Chinese. Also, Russia's shadow fleet that was ferrying, things that we had said you're not allowed to transfer anymore, more petrochemicals and oil to the Chinese. We took all of them down. Now we've taken down Iran. We've cut off, I think it's somewhere between
80%.
80% now. 80% of the Chinese oil capabilities of getting stuff. Now you ask yourself, okay, what does that matter? How does that help Americans at home? Remember, the Chinese do not have any nuclear aircraft carriers. They have 2 nuclear submarines, but they're very loud, and so we could sink them anytime we want. But they have no nuclear aircraft carriers. And so this is the situation that we put the Japanese in, where they, in World War II, which, then precipitated them attacking Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
Now, was that intentional because he wanted us to get into the war? Who knows? I can't debate that. I wasn't alive. But, I will say none of our new ships were in Pearl Harbor at the time. But either way, they attacked America. We destroyed all of them. But the situation that the Japanese were in is we had cut off all their access to oil. They could not keep their navy afloat without getting oil, so that's why they attacked us.
Right.
And so that's the same thing that we're doing with the Chinese right now,
100%.
which would stop them from taking Taiwan and our chip manufacturing.
And we are just destroying their infrastructure for business.
Oh, exactly.
And again, that to me was brilliant, and it boggles my mind that people don't see past. They can't see the big picture. They see what's happening in Iran, and that's all they can fixate on.
They can't see the forest because of the trees.
Right, and they don't see the secondary motive that Trump did, by basically squeezing off all the oil going to China, and we have they are a threat.
Yes.
Right? And you have to defang them. And that's exactly what he did. I thought it was a brilliant fucking
I
move.
thought it was a brilliant chess move. And some people will be like,
100%.
well, what do aircraft carriers matter? Remember, anytime we say, oh, we're sending the 7th Fleet, we're doing the 3rd Fleet, we're doing this over here, all of those are aircraft carrier groups. Every ship that's around those, aside from nuclear subs, are there to defend that aircraft carrier and help it present its power. That is how you project foreign power abroad, is with aircraft carriers. Stopping the Chinese from being able to use their aircraft carriers willy-nilly whenever they want makes them be extremely constricted in their options. And then that's going to put us in a position where now we can, when we go negotiate with them, it's like you literally, like, you know, there's a latent threat of force anytime men are having an agreement, right?
100.
Like when you shake hands, you know, right here, I'm shaking your hand. I'm like, I don't know if I can kill this guy. You know, like there's something carnal in men.
100%.
I would really have to fight. Like I shook your hand. I know I'm not gonna beat you in a fist fight. I can't walk. You know, I might have to pull out a knife. We'll see what we can do. You know, I can't take it there.
Dude, that's nice.
And so those are all things that I'm not sure. You know, but it's the same thing when you're dealing with foreign powers. There's a latent threat of force, and now that we have defanged the Chinese,
I'm aroused that he did that. That was awesome.
And so it was a latent threat of force that now when we go have diplomatic negotiations with them, they can't be like, well, it's cool, make us. We're like, okay, we can.
Right.
Like, we can do whatever we want to you.
Right.
Exactly. And so that's the position we have them in now. I think it was a brilliant move.
Me too, buddy.
And anybody who's, you know, frustrated, well, what are the Chinese? How does that help Americans at home? The Chinese have stolen all of our manufacturing. They have slave labor. It's hard to compete with.
100%.
And so when we start trying to reshore all that manufacturing, they're going to be pissed off and try and stop us. And if they don't have a military option, they're extremely limited in the options they can execute. So,
and to your point, that's why I was so against Mark Carney making all these deals with China.
Oh my gosh.
You
And
fucking
he was
idiot.
he was saying that there was like some multipolar world. President Trump over the last few months has proved there is no multipolar world. There are no other axes of superpowers on the planet. One thing, when we destroyed the nuclear facility in Iran, that, you know, of course we destroyed the nuclear facility in Iran. It was a shot across the bow to Russia and the Chinese.
100.
Because we launched multiple of our stealth bombers, and we flew over China and we flew over Russia, and then afterwards we released the flight paths and said, you had no idea we were there. We can kill you wherever you are.
It's a show of force, dude.
So then when we met with Putin in Alaska and Trump had a B-2 fly over, and such good execution. Our Air Force is the best. What great guys. You know, they might build golf courses before they build barracks, but they are the superpower of the world. Them and the Navy, it's incredible. Marines are obviously the best. They're my favorite guys to hang out with. Anytime you're on a diplomatic mission or at an embassy, the Marines are the ones that defend you. The Marines at 8th and I, the best guys in the world, literally the best guys in the world. If I'm in D.C., I'm hanging around all these politicians. It's suffocating. But during the summer, you can go out and watch them do the silent drill, and then I always demand, like, take me to the E Club, like wherever the enlisted guys are. They're like, no sir, we're gonna take the O Club. They're not really prepared for it because relative rank, they treat you like you're a 2-star general when you're a member of Congress, and so
nice.
You'll get salutes from everybody except for 2-star generals and up. And so anyways, the commandant's, chauffeur with me. He's like, no, we're going to take you to the officers club. That's where you need to be. It's much more posh. I was like, dude, I want to go buy beer for all these guys who are like, fight for us if it need be. And, they're the best guys in the world. But so when we flew that B-2 over Putin's head, it was a reminder saying, hey, we flew this over your country and you had no idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I dig those kind of show of force. And again, as a business, sometimes you got to remind motherfuckers who the lion in the room is.
Yep. Go in and underbid everybody and be like, we can afford the hit,
Right.
So,
right?
Yep.
So your political career, what do you want to do?
So, one of my ultimate goals in life is to own a nuclear facility, a nuclear power plant. There's a lot of laws in our way in the United States of America. I think that nuclear energy could unleash a new wave of manufacturing dominance, business dominance, and prosperity here in the United States. And obviously, anybody who says that they believe in being stewards of the earth, as a Christian, I want to be a steward of the earth, but I'm not some green hippie conservative. I'm not like a green hippie, but I do believe in taking care of our planet. And anybody who wants to be like, well, no, nuclear is dangerous. Dude, we have a rock that you can heat up that will create steam for 30 years. After you heat up, it stays hot. It will create steam for 30 years that will move a fan and a turbine that will give power to everything. And what is going to the atmosphere? Literally just steam. So anybody who says that we don't have any options, we need to get rid of all of our plastic waste, we need to do all of these things, they're lying to you. They just want to have you angry so that you'll go out and vote. That's literally all they want to do. And so nuclear power is one of my massive pushes for the United States. I think that we should be the preeminent nuclear power creator in the world. And, we can have small reactors that can power entire cities. You can have, small reactors that fuel entire industrial zones. And then it would bring the cost of energy so low, it could allow people to build so much at such a cheaper rate that then we could afford to pay American citizens an actual living wage because we're not having to spend all that money on energy. And then we wouldn't have to be importing these third worlders through H-1B visas who work for slave rates. It's absolutely insane. On that topic, you see Amazon, they just said, well, we're with an AI initiative, we're laying off 30,000 jobs. But also coincidentally, we just, hired 31,000 H-1B visas. So they're hiding it that they're getting rid of 30,000 American jobs under AI, but really they're just bringing in Indians
cheaper labor.
To do it. Yeah.
Yep. Now, again, as a business, I understand that you need to lower your costs.
Exactly.
But at what price, though? Like, I do not see the intelligence of taking away American jobs at the expense of lowering your costs. There's got to be a way that the government can work with businesses so that it's reciprocal. Any relationship that you have with someone, it has to be mutually beneficial.
Right.
Let's say you and I are friends, right? And I constantly backstab you. I do things that put you behind the 8 ball. You and I are not going to be friends.
No.
Right. There's got to be loyalty and there's got to be mutual benefit. And the same reason why I moved my business out of Canada, because it wasn't a mutually beneficial agreement, our relationship. So I fucked off. I'm coming to the States. And here in Canada, in the USA, as a business, I need to increase my margin of profit.
Of course.
And unfortunately, if that brings in cheaper labor, that's what you got to do. But there's got to be a give and take. The government has to work with businesses so that I don't have to do that.
Exactly. We need to give you ways that you can keep your profit margins while still paying Americans good living wages. And because I know a lot of business owners who are interested in this because listen, if we have a strong and prosperous country, we're all, high tides rise all boats.
Absolutely.
Everybody's going to be moving money around more. We're going to be making more profit. Things are going to be great. But to do that, the United States government has got to be forward thinking. We've got to lower the cost of energy. We've got to lower the cost of raw materials. We have to get rid of the EPA that makes it almost impossible to do any form of mining here in the United States. We had to open a mining company in South America because to do it here in the United States is so tedious and so hard. People are upset about housing prices in the United States. It's the EPA's fault. The EPA makes all home building products production so outrageously expensive because they said, well, you might kill if you actually plant that forest there to get lumber. You might kill this really rare beetle. Like, I don't give a fuck. The beetles here, like the children here in the United States of America need homes. I'm sorry if it displaces that beetle. Whatever. You're just trying to make it harder for the United States of America to actually function and prosper because they hate our country.
Yep, I agree. But again, when you're bitching about the USA, I'm like, fuck you, buddy. But Canada's far worse. So,
well, listen, guys, I've always thought that, snowmobile combat would be really fun. Imagine, having like a Glock 18 riding on a snowmobile with all your buddies.
Watch those James Bond movies, buddy.
I'm telling you, it'd be pretty great. So, if you guys want to become the 51st state, the western side of Canada, we will protect you from the eastern side.
Listen.
But also the people in Toronto aren't putting up a fight. Come on.
Canadians, just for whatever reason, are so against the fact that we would be the 51st state. Well, I'm saying, do you want to be property of China or would you like to be a 51st state? Yeah. And since they're being pussies about it, I'm like, okay, fuck you. Yeah, I'm not going to play. If I can't be in your club, then I'm going to go to the club that I want to be in. So past that, do you not have future...
No. Oh, yeah. So you're talking about political career.
Yeah.
So, I'm running for Congress right now.
Yep.
I really looking forward to serving the constituents here in Southwest Florida. I don't look at this as some kind of stepping stone.
Really?
No. So the majority of people inside of Congress, they're so afraid of an attack article, like what we were talking about earlier. At the beginning of the show, they're so afraid of someone saying something negative about him, saying, oh, he's an Islamophobe, he's a homophobe, he's this, he's a Christian nationalist, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I am a Christian nationalist. Yeah, I believe in empire. Sue me. I don't care. But unfortunately, most people don't have that kind of backbone. Fortunately, my backbone is reinforced with titanium. And so if you want to say whatever you want, you can call me whatever you want. I really have a massive disdain for almost everyone in the media. And I have a massive disdain for that side and the belief system. So I don't care what you call me, dude. If you say, oh, well, hey, you know, if you homeschool your kids, they're not going to be super normal. So you're saying they're not going to come out as trans and be some communist who wants to be fat and just, you know, go have, you know, a bunch of SSRIs pump into their system so they like can't actually have any real feelings. Okay, yeah, sure. I want to be weird then. I want to be different.
But isn't it unfortunate that we have to go to that fucking level of homeschooling our kids because the
insane.
education system is so fucked up?
Yep.
Dude, there's a school in I believe it's Ontario or Oakville. They had to put a kitty litter box in the bathroom because some girl thought she identified as a cat.
See,
what the fuck are we doing?
This is where, you know, the anti-bullying movement. Now, bullying that led to people, you know, committing suicide, stuff like that, especially with cyberbullying, things like that. Yeah. That's all really bad. I can understand that. But, you know, there needs to be in our society a place where we can call things out without getting canceled over it. Like, you know, if I see a person wearing a tail at a city council meeting trying to say, if you don't do this, I don't care. I literally don't care about your opinion, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I know you're a U.S. citizen, but you're dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you literally think that you're an animal. You're not a serious
Your opinion
person.
is not fucking valid.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you know, so many young men today, they haven't ever been punched in the face.
Right.
So they feel like they can go out and say whatever they want and there's no consequences. But, you know, people need to face some kind of consequences, some kind of shame. Shaming works really, really well. It's
Getting
like,
punched in the face works really well.
Oh,
if I come up and I talk shit to you and you punch me in the face, the next time I'm probably not going to talk shit.
Exactly.
I'm going to think maybe that's not a good fucking idea.
And most young men in America learned that when they were kids, being like, oh, I pushed the envelope a little too far. That's what young men are. They're little scientists. They want to push every boundary. What is the actual rule? How far can I go? You know, and that's why it's so important having fathers in the home, because of that latent threat of force. These guys get this massive boost of testosterone at 14, 16 years old.
Yep.
And, you know, you want to have somebody with a pencil neck or a woman come and be like, hey,
Time
don't
out.
break that. Time out. They're going to be like, what are you going to do to me? You're going to spank me? Go ahead.
Right.
Whereas, but if your dad, you know, in his thundering voice and your voice still cracks, said, sit down now.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be significantly better. So
100%. My
I
father
the
didn't.
dog set right when that happened. I just want to point that out. That's a really good dog.
He's an awesome dog. George is an awesome dog. When I was a kid, my mother would routinely try and hit me with her slipper. And then when I started studying martial arts at a young age, she would try and hit me and I would just block it and she would get all fucking pissed off. But my dad, would say he would lay down the law. He never had to hit me. He said it because that's the other problem I have. We have lost fucking respect.
Yes.
We've lost respect for authority. You know,
Elders.
I'm a big believer in authority. Respect the fucking police. Like, go back to that Minnesota thing, right? With the Nicole Good. She was told 4 times to get out of the car. That shit first of all, she shouldn't even have been there, but she was, right? Because she has the right to fucking protest. So the cop told her 4 times, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car.
She was doing, yeah.
Right. Okay, you know what? And then she tried to run him over. I analyzed the fuck out of that video, right? Her wife was on the other side and she peeled it there. She was like, go honey, go honey, go honey. I've seen that video from multiple angles. She hit that guy. He was in the hospital for internal bleeding. You know what? You did stupid shit. You paid the price.
He was also 2 weeks before that dragged under a car for 4 minutes.
Right. I give 0 fucks for that chick.
Yeah, and listen, you know, people get upset because, you know, oh, police brutality and this and that. And
How?
this. Listen, man, this is one thing where, like, you know, you take kids who are dealing marijuana or something like that, you know, something harmless. And again, I know that it can lead to bad things, but let's just say, back in the day, a cop just pushing you into a thing, hey, stop being stupid. If I see you again, I'm going to have to arrest you. Now they would sue. Well, he put his hands on me. He didn't read me my rights. You know, and so instead you want to have a criminal record now because a cop can't just, you know, a benevolent, you know, rough man can't grab you by the scruff and say, hey, stop being dumb. I was, you know, remembering your story one time when I was growing up. I remember, you know, I said something. I was talking back to my mom. I think I was rage baiting her. I was being funny. And anyways, but I was being disrespectful. And so she went to hit me. Like, you know, as in a motherly way, you know. I was like probably 14, 15 at the time. She can't hurt me at that point.
Yeah.
And so she says, Madison Cawthorn, you know, going to hit me. And I'd been studying, so I blocked it. My dad teleported in the room. I don't think I knew he was home. And he grabbed me and he's like, you can't take a hit from a woman. He's like, you ever block your mom's hit again? I will hit you. And I was like, oh, okay. Mom, you want to slap me? You can do whatever you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trade with a lot of police officers, and the very fact that they have to wear body cams now, first of all, has disproven the amount of physical police brutality that they claim existed.
Oh, exactly.
But they are also now under the problem that they can't do a solid for the guy. So you're being a stupid kid, right? Something. Now they have to fucking arrest you. Now they got to jam you up. Now you're going to have a fucking record when in times past, they could have simply said, Madison, stop being a fucking jerk off, go home, right? Your buddy's going to drive you home. You're drunk. You shouldn't be fucking, go home. But now, because everyone was such an advocate for the body cams to prove police brutality, not only did that work against them because it just showed that there is very little police brutality going on, that now we're giving kids criminal records when it shouldn't have to be the case.
Yeah, and then you want to take these young men who are, maybe going astray, running to the wrong crowd, and then put them in a place that is filled with the worst crowd you could be around.
100.
And then you expect them to like rehabilitate in some positive way. It's like, no, man, come on. Like, okay, you want to punish them? Go make them work a job with men who are trying to provide for their families. That's going to be a totally, I know a bunch of rough men who are in construction. There should be a thing like, oh, you're going to have to go work on this construction crew. I know there's a bunch of companies here in Lee County that I know would probably sign up and be like, yeah, there's some little wayward kids who are being a little dumb, but they can use a hammer. Cool, bring them. We'll let them do some framing and, give them a job instead of, giving them a criminal record.
What putting kids or putting youth in prison is going to do absolutely fuck all for them. You have just ruined their future.
Or destroyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so one last question. What do you want your legacy to be?
You can't help the world that you were born into.
100.
Anybody who wants to attack, the beginning of America because there was slavery, those people couldn't help that they were born into a world of slavery. But by the time they were done, slavery was abolished.
Yes, 100.
And, this is the world that we're born into. And most people I know are like, yeah, but born in my generation, man, I'm tired of living through unprecedented events. I say something completely different. What an honor and a privilege is it to be a dragon slayer born into a generation when there are actual dragons to slay. There is real evil in this world, and we were born for this time to actually stand up against it. You can have your name in history books so easily by standing up and saying, you will not execute this evil on future generations. I will stop you now. Either I will prosecute you, I will find laws against you, I will defeat you in the battlefield of ideas, and if it comes to it, I will use force of arms to destroy you because evil will not reign. And I want to get the United States of America and people around the world to start saying in public what we all say in private, to stand up, to have a backbone, to say we will not allow you to destroy our country. We will not send our sons and daughters to die for some foreign reason. We will not let you debase our currency. We will not let you harm our children. And if you do any of those things, we will kill you. That is what America is about. We are the superpower of the world. It is time that we act like it.
Fucking right, buddy. Man, it was an honor to fucking meet you.
Pleasure, Bruce. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
We're out.